Chris here. In this video we are going to talk about the fundamentals of smoothing and sub-D modeling. Now when someone says sub-D, what they mean is subdividable, and you can think of subdividable and smoothable or sub-D and smooth as the same things. I have a plane here and I'm going to smooth it. When I smooth an object inside of Maya, two things happen. The first being that any polygon is divided into 4 polygons. So let's go ahead and select this, and I'm going to hit smooth, and you'll see that this face has now been divided into 4 faces. I have this poly smooth face, and there's divisions right here. If I increase the division to 2, that would be the same as me just selecting this again and hitting smooth. So when I increase the division to 2, it is going to further divide every polygon by 4. So it's going to split this polygon into 4, and this one into 4, and so on and so forth. So 2. And the same thing will happen if I continue, right? Every single polygon will be split into 4. Notice that this polygon was square to begin with, and because of that, every division has resulted in perfectly even squares. The second thing that happens when you smooth an object is that in addition to each face being split into 4 faces, it will round out any corners. So if I hit smooth here, you'll see that the cube has now been sort of divided and rounded out. And if I were to continue to do this, it is going to continue to divide those edges until I get something close to a sphere, like so. We frequently need to smooth or subdivide our models for reasons that I'm going to go over in a future video. The trick is subdividing our model or smoothing our model in a way that we maintain the hard edges that we want to keep. So for example, when I divide this, you'll see the whole thing collapses in on itself and it no longer looks like a cube. Let's go ahead and go to my multi-cut tool, and I'm going to hold Control and drop an edge loop here. Now, what's going to happen if I smooth this? Every face will be divided into 4. Now, these faces up here are substantially smaller than the faces below or on top. This edge and this edge are quite close. So now if I were to smooth this, this top edge here is not going to round out quite so dramatically, simply because the poly density up top will be greater than down below. So let's go ahead and select this and hit smooth, and you'll see that the top now is much flatter, whereas the bottom continues to be round. So I'm going to undo that smooth. So instead of hitting smooth over and over again, we already learned about smooth preview, which is 3 and 1. So we can hit 3 to see what this would look like if we were to smooth it with 2 subdivisions, right? And 1 to turn it off. If I want to fully maintain this top edge here and make sure that it does not round out, I need to give it supporting edge loops or fenced edges. So I'm going to go ahead and go to my multi-cut tool, and I'm going to drop an edge loop very close to this top so that the polygons, when they are divided up here, will be very small. Next, I'll drop one over here, and notice how this corner edge right here has an edge on either side of it, very close to it. That means when I hit 3, you'll see that this edge right here that has the fenced edges has remained sharp. Let's go ahead and give supporting edge loops to the other corners. Now if we were to examine this, you'll see that every corner edge has fenced edges or supporting edge loops around it. So if I select this and hit 3 again, you'll see that this is still a cube. And if I hit 1 and I actually smooth this, I go to 2 divisions, you'll see what's happening, right? So regardless of how many times I divide this, it will never round out. This is an important concept to understand. If I were to have you remember 3 things from this video, the first thing would be that The faces all subdivide by 4 when you smooth or subdivide. And the second thing would be that edges or corners become rounded when you subdivide. And the third thing would be that if you want to maintain a hard edge or a corner, you need to have fenced or supporting edges on either side of that corner, right? So something like this. Let's take a look at a more complex model right here. If I were to smooth this, I get something like this, right? And if I want to maintain the shape, I'm going to need to, again, add supporting edge loops. Adding supporting edge loops gets more complicated the more complex a shape or a form is. And the main reason being that when you add an edge loop to create a fenced edge, it is traveling around and across the model. We want to avoid creating n-gons, and we also want to avoid pinching when we smooth or subdivide the model. So I'm going to go ahead and just fence in all these edges. And now you can see that when I smooth this with those fenced in edges, I am getting a better result, and edges are not collapsing in on themselves. That was a smooth preview. Let's actually smooth it so we can see the poly density and how that looks. One of the primary reasons why we smooth or subdivide a model is so that we can get rid of perfectly sharp edges. In real life, there's really no such thing as a perfect 90-degree edge, and most of the time when we are modeling an object, we want to get rid of perfect 90-degree edges. So smoothing with fenced edges is a way where we can make the object look more realistic and provide additional detail to that object. In the next video, we will talk about the high poly to low poly modeling process, what it is, and why it's important. And I'll see you there.